Hello and welcome back to another vintage inspired video. My name is Kelly and today we're out in the wild, and that is because I am standing in Cathedral City, which is just outside of Palm Springs at Desert Memorial Park, and this is where you'll find the final resting spot of one of 20th century's greatest entertainers. That is my opinion, but perhaps your opinion as well if you're watching this. Also notable people who are buried here are Suzanne Summers, Sonny Bono, William Powell, and I just watched The Thin Man, so I thought maybe if I have time, I'd like to go and pay respects to him as well. But we're here for the man who never needs an introduction, Frank Sinatra.
We begin tonight with the death of an American original, Frank Sinatra. For the better part of this century, he set the standard for popular music in this country and around the world. For millions of fans, his voice was the soundtrack for a lifetime of memories.
It's not a very Palm Springs day, but that is okay. I will take the 50-ish degree weather right now versus the 100 plus that I have been out here in before. This is my third time visiting Sinatra. The first time was in 2014. I will put a photo of that up on my Patreon if you want to take a look. If you come in that gate right there, just to your right, you will find the final resting spot of Frank Sinatra, buried right there where those flowers are, and next to his parents, which are right here. This is his father, Anthony Sinatra, and his mother, Dolly. And just on the other side of Sinatra is his fourth and final wife, Barbara Sinatra. Right here, you can see Francis Albert Sinatra. Sleep Warm Papa, born 1915. He was born December 12th, died May 14th, 1998. There is some interesting history behind this headstone. Right here is his wife, Barbara. And the headstone that used to be here, one that I saw when I came out here in 2014, it looked very much like Barbara's. It is said that Barbara picked out Sinatra's headstone when he passed away, and then after she passed away in 2017, some years later, in around 2021, I believe, this headstone all of a sudden changed. And according to Palm Springs Life magazine, it was under some shrouded circumstances. The reporter reached out to the cemetery to get information as to why the change, and they basically said they didn't want to get involved. The story goes something like Nancy and Tina didn't have the best relationship with Barbara. Barbara handpicked the headstone, which originally read, "The best is yet to come," with his name, Francis Albert Sinatra, the years, and beloved husband and father. So it seems like when it was up to the daughters, they wanted to have the headstone that they wanted. And according to that same article, their source stated that there was also damage done to the word husband with some type of blunt instrument on that original headstone. I'll put a link to the story and the description if you want to look into it further. He was in really poor health for those last few years. He had had a heart attack in 1997. Later, what actually took his life was a second heart attack in 1998. He passed away at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in Los Angeles, and the doctors were working on him for over an hour, yet nobody called his children until after he had passed away. And I read some things that Tina said she felt that Barbara wanted to be seen as the solitary figure, the grieving wife and now widow alone by his side, and did not alert his children of the seriousness of his condition on that day, which is really sad. It is said that he's buried in a blue suit with 10 dimes in his pocket, Jack Daniels, Camel cigarettes, and a Zippo. If you're watching this, you're probably already familiar with this story, but in 1963, his son, Frank Sinatra Jr., was kidnapped. And the men who took him would only communicate with Sinatra via payphones. And so it became an obsession for Sinatra to make sure he always had coins on him when he needed to make these phone calls. And this apparently translated into the rest of his life, always being very diligent about having coins on him. And so when he passed away, his family made sure he had coins on him. The rest of the items are self-explanatory. I think that it is nice that his family adorned his casket with items that he loved, represented him and what he was interested in.
Obviously, only the family knows what was actually included, but I think it's nice. When I came here before, I put coins on his grave marker. There's some coins here right now. I put 3 coins for 3 coins in the fountain. There's 2 pennies right now on his headstone, along with a few other coins below that.
The night of Sinatra's death, the Empire State Building was turned blue and the lights were dimmed on Las Vegas Boulevard, which I think is a very fitting tribute for a man who basically made that city what it is. Las Vegas it is, but obviously very synonymous with New York as well. Beyond just the New York, New York song, he played at the Paramount in the early years of his career to thousands of screaming fans. His funeral service took place on May 20th in Beverly Hills, which is where he was living at the time of his death. There were 400 mourners, many of them with connections to the entertainment industry. I read somewhere once that Palm Springs was sort of his happy place, and when he moved away, he was very sad about it. He had a few homes in Palm Springs, one being Twin Palms, which was the first home he owned in the area, and one I have been lucky enough to visit during Modernism Week, and Villa Maggio, a home named after his character in the film From Here to Eternity, which was seen as his comeback moment, I guess we can call it, and he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor.
The winner is Frank Sinatra. Doing a lot of songs here tonight, but somebody asked me. But I love you, though. Thank you very much. I'm absolutely thrilled. Thank you.
The beginning of his career, he was not a solo artist, but sang in groups. He performed with the Three Flashes, who changed their name to the Hoboken Four with his addition. He then became a singing waiter at a restaurant called the Rustic Cabin, which had ties to a radio station in New York, and being heard on the radio led to other opportunities. He started out as a solo singer with the Harry James Band, later with the Tommy Dorsey Band, and there was some drama at the end of their working relationship. Sinatra had a contract with Dorsey, which was not a great one for Sinatra. It had Tommy Dorsey taking 43% of Sinatra's lifetime earnings, and he wanted out. The apocryphal story of how Sinatra got out of his contract involved his mobster godfather and a gun. Other accounts say it was just hard negotiations that finally settled it. From there, he went on to sing under the Columbia label and did all the songs that the Bobby Soxers loved. And later, he had a bad slump coming in the late 40s, early 50s, in part due to a growing bad reputation over the end of his marriage and subsequent one to Ava Gardner. And people had written him off, and he turned to Vegas and performed to sparse audiences. And it wasn't until From Here to Eternity that he was able to revive his career. In the late 50s, early 60s came the swinging big symphony sounds that we know as the Sinatra sound, with Capitol Records, curated and arranged by Nelson Riddle. Then with his own label, Reprise, and that's really the era of Sinatra that is my favorite. He retired in 1970, and that only lasted a few years, and he continued to perform up until his death. Looks like the rain started up a bit, but I still see a lot of blue sky. Until we meet again, rest in peace, Mr. Frank Sinatra. Okay, I am going to go see if I could find William Powell now. Finding William Powell was actually not too hard. He is literally just right up from Sinatra. I'll turn back around. Sinatra's right there, bottom left with the flowers, and William Powell is just catty corner to him, right up here. It says William H. Powell, 1892 to 1984. He passed away out in Palm Springs. If you have not seen The Thin Man, I know that there's a whole series of the films. I've only seen the first one so far, but you have to see it. It's a great film, especially for as old as it is. I feel like it still plays today. Maybe that's just my bias towards old Hollywood films, but his chemistry with Myrna Loy is amazing. It is worth it just for that. I found him very charming, quick, smart, witty. Admittedly, I need to check off more films of his from my list. Well, I have seen How to Marry a Millionaire, but if you like old films, give it a watch. You will not be disappointed. And then over here, next to him, is his wife, Diana Mousy Powell, 1919 to 1997. We'll meet again. I like that. That's a nice epitaph. Rest in peace, William and Diana Powell. All right, that is it for today's video. I hope that you enjoyed coming along with me to pay respects to one of the best who ever did it, Frank Sinatra. Maybe even you learned something, and
until that next video, I am wishing you a super swell day, and I will see you then. Bye.